Why is AaDi specifically better at the finance side of things? Because it's a similar use case is being built for other information as well, and at the same time, it can be these capabilities can be extended beyond this.
Basically, it can be definitely trained to other areas, right? However, we just wanted to, because this is our core area, right? Finance, as we've been discussing, right? So what we have done is we have taken various models in the market, combined it, and also trained it very heavily on finance data.
I just want to understand technologically. I just want to understand the technology a little more in detail, and at the same time also figure out what is how does this analyst mind graph compare to traditional machine learning models, and how does that give an edge?
Many of these questions that we ask every day on a day-to-day, on day-to-day business are multi-layered in nature, right? For example, if I want to understand my finance number, my sales number, let's say, right, for this period or this month or this quarter, it's not a unidirectional question. You want to understand how did I fare this period, this month, or the current month versus my last month, versus my same month last year, versus my moving average.
Hello and welcome everyone to the next episode of the A Media House podcast Simulated Reality. Today we have with us Dwarika Patro. He is the co-founder and chief operating officer at AaDi's Analytics. Hi Dwarika, thank you for making the time. How are you doing today?
Thank you, Kashyap, for having me. It's a pleasure meeting you. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing well as well. Thank you for asking. It's a beautiful day in San Francisco. I hope it's the same for London. I'm not too sure.
No.
It's mostly cloudy.
London is gloomy as always. So winter
As
has
always.
probably already arrived here.
Okay. But we are going to talk about financial analytics and the Gen AI applications and solutions in that function. And I think Age Analytics has been doing some interesting work around it. You have recently launched a product AaDi, which is doing really well in the market, and you're working with several large enterprises to to kind of leverage this product to help them in a lot of cases, which we'll discuss shortly. But before diving into this realm, what do you think are some of the current pain points of finance functions in large enterprises that need addressing and that you made you think about are the end overall solutions?
Right. Great question, Kashyap. So I think, probably, as you know, IS has a very deep connection with finance. And we started as an organization, contrary to many other organizations, we started with finance analytics as our, let's say, that's where we germinated, right? Our whole journey, because that's the kind of background me and Anshuman, the founders, were coming from. Uh, so we have been working in this space, like finance and analytics on top of it, right? So as you understand, finance is a very horizontal function, right? It cuts across multiple functions within any organization. It touches marketing, it touches sales, it touches supply chain, everything in a way, right? So, so the biggest challenge for finance at this stage is like, how do we have a single pane of control over all this information that is flowing across multiple functions within the organization? And especially this amplifies when the organization is a large organization, right? Large enterprises, which with whom generally we work. So understanding, having this information together and then making sense out of it, right? So that's where the complexity arises. And there are other, lots of macroeconomic, I mean, from a macroeconomic perspective or from a microeconomic perspective, obviously there are other challenges from a business perspective. But from a data analytics and finance perspective, leaders are looking to build solutions which can provide them real-time insight about their business and make them smart in terms of taking preemptive actions, right? And then also giving them simulation capability so that they can plan different scenarios and make their business resilient, right? So these are the, I mean, key top items, I think I would say, what we observe in the market today.
Okay, and in relation with that, can you also shed some light on AaDi? Firstly, I'm very curious as to name how the name AaDi came. If you can tell us a little bit about that, and then at the same time help us understand what with some of the points that you mentioned and pain points and use cases that finance functions in large enterprises are facing, it would be great to understand are these capabilities accordingly.
Right. So I think Adi, I'll come to the abbreviation, how the name Adi came, right? But before that, I think I would just like to maybe spend 1 minute on how generative AI is helping here, right? So if you think about it, uh, the finances function as such in a large organization does a multiple type of analysis, right? Which has been very traditional in nature and very agent driven. That means human driven, right? So a lot of reports people run, analyze, absorb some information, and then synthesize those information and write reports, and is being consumed by multiple stakeholders, right? So because we have been working in finance analytics or finance space for a long time, we have multiple tools developed which does a decision intelligence or helps in the decision intelligence space to the finance function, right? However, with generative AI, I think what has changed is how people interact with those information or those capabilities, right? That has changed, fundamentally, because generative AI is so good in creating content and personalizing your interaction with these machines, right? So if you think about it, Adi is a orchestration layer on top of all of your traditional capabilities that you would have built in the past, plus more, and help you to access those tools in a very human interaction way, right? So essentially how it works is like, let's say if you're a CFO of a company, you want to get some insight about your business. What would you do typically? You would go to your one of your reportees who could be an analyst, and you will say, okay, this is my question or this is my hypothesis, can you go and check the facts around it, right? And then come back to me with a report. And that analyst will go and maybe search, depending on the maturity of the organization. And traditionally, uh, maybe they will go find those information in their transactional systems, create an Excel dump, or maybe they have built some Power BI or Tableau or BI reports. They would have see these reports and then do some analysis and come back to you and give a report, right? So that's how typically it used to happen. So with advent of generative AI, and that's where Adi comes in, right? We have deployed generative AI where you don't need to go to an analyst for any of your ad hoc reporting. You go and ask that question to the interface, that Adi interface, and then Adi will act as an analyst for you. It will go and plug into multiple data sources from your perspective, and then get the right insight for you and then present it to you, right? You may want to iterate over it if you are not happy with the answer, but it in a way cuts down your time to insight, because it is acting as an analyst and it is an independent agent to do it automatically, right? So
Yeah,
that's where the name also comes. Adi is nothing but IS analyst decision intelligence, right? So that's where the Adi name comes in as well, right? So we're envisaging this will replace many of this kind of analyst type of roles in a very mature organization.
one of the questions that arises in my mind is that the application that you just mentioned, where you kind of scar different databases across your function and generate insights on it. Why is Adi specifically better at the finance side of things? Because it's a similar use case is being built for other information as well, and at the same time, it can be these capabilities can be extended beyond this. But why is it better at finance as a function?
Yeah. I think this question being asked multiple times to me, and I'm sure it is basically it can be definitely trained to other areas, right? However, we just wanted to, because this is our core area, right? Finance, as we've been discussing, right? So what we have done is we have taken various models in the market, combined it, and also trained it very heavily on finance data, right? Or finance terminology, finance way of analysis, right? So that's where this financing come in. But this is a framework, right? So let's say tomorrow someone wants to build something similar, or tomorrow let's say we decide to build something similar for marketing function, for sales function. That doesn't, I mean, nothing stops us from doing it, right? So it's just that we have a deep understanding of finance space, and that's why, and we understand the key pain points of a finance stakeholder. So that's why we have trained it well on finance. But it's a framework, right? This can be used for anyone else.
Fantastic. My next question to you is Adi claims to improve the productivity by 55%, right?
Mhm.
In your experience, what are some of the key factors or parameters that are being considered to come to this number 55%? What is it that what is the analysis that you've done to come up with this number 55%?
Okay. So this 55% that you see is a very conservative number, right? So I'll tell you, I'll explain you. There are multiple layers of effectiveness or productivity improvement that we are envisaging using this. First is, as I was also telling you, that you don't need, so the time to insight is much faster, right? You don't need to give it this task to an individual. That individual goes, that perform the task and comes to you, and then you take an action, any action on top of it. So that is completely, not completely, but I think to a great extent, at least to the in the areas where the model is well trained, it can cut down those time, right? However, the other area, the other advantage of this is, there are, if you look at a decently matured organization, you would have built so many reports, so many dashboards, or so many BI AI capabilities over the past, right? And many of this organization or many of the stakeholders don't know which tools to use when, right? And what is built for what purpose, right? So that is becoming a very big challenge for a lot of organizations. That's what I understand from my discussion with a lot of senior stakeholders in this space. So AaDi is very good in understanding, because it's all encoded into it, right? It understands. So let's say if you are doing a financial planning, which database to go, which report to look into, right? And what data to pick up, right? So it clearly understands that. So it gives you that effectiveness, right? The second part. The third part is, AaDi, if you look at it, it is not only a generative AI engine, but it also sits on top of it a lot of traditional machine learning models that we have built. It could be simulation, scenario planning, and all those capabilities that we have built, right? But it unlocks those tools to you in a very seamless manner, right? So all these things combined, I mean, we have done certain, let's say, scenarios within our customer bases, or talking to people who have done piloting in our product, right? So by combining all this thing, we feel that minimum 55% productivity, or productivity improvement we can provide, or we can achieve when this tool is well deployed.
Got it. Got it. Going into a little bit, let's go into a little more specifics of AaDi, right? I got a chance to read it into a little more detail. And one of the things that it mentions is it uses an analyst mind graph, right? And I just want to understand technologically, I just want to understand the technology a little more in detail, and at the same time also figure out what is, how does this analyst mind graph compare to traditional machine learning models, and how does that give an edge for the product AaDi to help finance functions?
Yeah. So it's a very interesting feature, right? Analyst mind graph that we're talking about. And that's where I think the core differentiation comes in. I'll explain you how, right? Many of these questions that we ask every day on a day-to-day, on day-to-day business are multi-layered in nature, right? For example, if I want to understand my finance number, my sales number, let's say, right, for this period or this month or this quarter, it's not a unidirectional question. You want to understand, how did I fare this period, this month, or the current month, versus my last month, versus my same month last year, versus my moving average, right? How am I doing from a statistical perspective? So whenever you ask a question, mostly in business, are multi-layered. You want someone to analyze this particular question in multiple dimension, and then give you the right insight, right? So AaDi, because and that's where the mind map, or or the analyst mind map comes in, because we have encoded this kind of thinking, or this kind of chain of thoughts within this application. So we know how finance people think and how finance people do analysis, and we have created those chain of thought capabilities, right? Which people are nowadays, very excited when they say GPT o1, right? So which is really good in my chain of thought. So we have been doing this for last 1 year in the finance space. So that's the analyst mind map thing, which is encoded there. It helps companies, or it helps stakeholders to ask very deep question, and the model understands this deeper question and does multiple level of analysis and comes back to them with whatever is the most significant answer, right, for them, so that they don't have to really go and juggle through a lot of data. It's become very seamless for them, and that's where again, even more efficiency comes into the picture.
Mhm. Um, Continuing on the understanding the technology behind it, right? One feature, especially in the finance functions, or which is a very critical area, is the explainability aspect of it.
Yeah.
It is very important for someone working within finance if they are trusting a chatbot, or not a chatbot, but a co-pilot, to when and the co-pilot is answering them questions and giving them specific numbers to be able to trust it, right? Like, and let's say you're also generating insights through it. You said
Yeah.
you do simulations, so explainability is a very important part in this function, and you have stressed on it a lot, right? And at the same time, you're using something called as a step intelligence maps. So I want to understand your take on some of the features built through this step intelligence maps. What is your thought on it, and what are some of the features included in AaDi to ensure that this AI is explainable? And yeah.
Yeah. No, very good question, and I think it's very close to my heart as individually, because I think with this AI, right, the relationship between human and the machines are changing fundamentally, right? Uh, so there's always it's. I think we are very used to trust people, uh, right? And the trust is won over time. I mean, when you meet someone, probably we don't trust them so much, but over the time, as the interaction grows and as we know their value systems, as we know their behavior, right, we start trusting it, right? But for that, it is that partnership that you have to build with that individual, right? Same is with machines, because these machines have emerging properties of creating new stuff, emerging properties of understanding your needs and so on and so forth, right? So I feel fundamentally it is no different. So that means you need to understand what these machines are, how they are trained, what values they carry, right? Can I interrogate this particular machine and understand how they have calculated this or how they are giving this information? So when we built AaDi, it was as a first principle we applied that whatever answer it brings in and presents to the user, it should have a complete trace of that, right? So be it the mind map, right? What mind map it has used, what framework it has used, or what database it has used, what kind of SQL queries, or any other queries that it has used. So we give that completely as a lock to our users, right? Sometimes some of the users are very technical, they might understand. Some of the users are not very technical, they might not understand, right? So hence, what we've also done is, for business users, we have translated those into very technical terminologies into more like a business friendly manner answers, right? So let's say, for example, you want to go and find this answer into, by querying 5 different tables. We will give that information a business friendly jargon to them, so that they understand which table or which data was referred to, and what filters were applied, what calculations were done, right? That is very critical. Then we've also built a responsible AI framework where we are evaluating each answer, right, by 9 different parameters. Uh, and then we also give a cumulative score, which tells the users whether you can trust this number right away, or that needs a human in loop to take over and verify this answer individually, right? But we also encourage them to build a relationship with machine by giving it feedback on a continuous basis, so that over the time you trust that machine and then untrust an answer, right? So it's a journey, I won't say, because it's not like a traditional deterministic software where you give A, it'll always give you B, right? It's not like that, because these are like very probabilistic models that we're running. So I think it's a bit of new way of working, new way of trusting the machine or not trusting the machine, right? So I think there's a journey everyone has to take it to really make it happen, right? So I think what we're trying to do is through this is to make it as seamless as possible, as simple as possible. But I think there's a long way to go.
I think the explainability is one aspect of it, Dwarika. At the same time, it is also very critical to understand the whys behind the whats in terms of some of the insights that Adi is generating. That is a focus that you have always maintained in it, right? There is a cause-effect relationship is one of the key features in Adi, and that is highlighted throughout the material that I have read for Adi over the last couple of weeks. Can you help us explain as to how do you do that effectively? Because numbers always tell you numbers always tell you the what's behind it, right? Establishing the whys always requires human intervention or some kind of experience. Is Adi able to learn itself to generate these whys, or have you or do you also Adi also believes a little bit of human in the loop? What is the thought process behind building cause effect relationships in Adi, and how do
Yeah.
your customers make the best use case out of it? Because that is the most valuable part of the entire solution.
Yeah. I think all this why questions or the root cause analysis type of questions, right? Again, originates from the chain of thought and the analyst mindset that we have created or encoded in the application, right? So if you think about this, right? So I may ask why this number is higher this year or this month, right? So again, that needs a lot of chain of thoughts to analyze the numbers in multiple. So what I'm trying to say is like every why question can be translated into multiple or chain of what questions, right? Uh, and I think that's where the key, I think, feature that we're trying to build. And every what question again can again flipped into a why question. So you can have multiple levels of chain of thought. It's a multi-tiered chain of thought that we have to build, right? But this stage, I think in the current version of Adi, we are just doing a one tier or one level of chain of thought that we have created, right? And what Adi is also doing is to understand when user is asking a why question, it is good at creating a one layer of what question around it, right? But then it also constantly understands or absorbs like what type of next questions are coming, right, from the user, right?
Mm,
So
okay.
in a way, it is learning on the job to understand what why question creates what question, and then what is the next tier of chain of thought, and then the next tier of chain of thought, right? So this chain of thought, so we have encoded just one layer of chain of thought, but it is continuously learning the next layers of chain of thought, right? So I think it's a journey. I mean, it has not completely solved the why part, but it is learning very fast, right? I think, and then models like O1, right, is even more helping it because this some of this naturally it is coming from O1 as well, right? Uh,
Mm,
I mean, we will get better and better with this kind of new things coming in. Uh, yeah, I mean, and then that's where I think mostly what I'm saying is domain expertise is very important, right? If you
yeah.
don't understand the domain, you cannot do a root cause analysis. You'll be just throwing stone in the dark. Uh, so that's why we're very careful. Like you understand the domain, not only the domain, even subdomain, right? So for example, if you're in finance, if you are a P&A person versus a treasury person, probably you look into things very differently. So we are also trying to train them at a very subdomain level.
Mm,
We
mm.
have to go very deep and deep and deep to really make it work, right? So that's the whole challenge that we're trying to solve, one at a
And
time,
fi
obviously.
yeah, and finally, any case studies, any success stories where some of your customers have come back to you and told how it benefited them? Because it's more of a bottom line application where you're trying to reduce costs, improve productivity. But anything that stood out after Adi was enrolled or put to scale in an organization, and
Hmm.
customers came back to you and said, this is really useful for us.
So I think we have already deployed at least in three different places, right? Out of these three different places, I think obviously we generally always believe in start small and then learn quickly and then expand, right? So out of these three, and in different subdomains within finance, and one in at the intersection of finance and supply chain, right? So finance, supply chain finance in a way, right? So there are three different places we have deployed. Out of these three, two have gone to, like, it has gone POC phase, right? Beyond POC phase, it's going into more like MVPs, where we are trying to implement certain capabilities for the users to start using it, right, on the day-to-day basis. Uh, so the key responses that we have got so far are, it is unlocking a lot of ad hoc analysis which users could not have done without a technical user, right? So their dream state is that, okay, if we invest enough time and money on building the solid data layer, uh, we would deploy some tool like this so that we don't have to create a lot of dashboards, right? So it will sit on this data and then build the BI reports or the other decision intelligence on top of it automatically as much as possible, right? Uh, and so the feedbacks, I think, we have got so far is that, the time to insight has become much faster. Instead of like days, it has become like, hours, right? So that is the biggest takeaway for us. uh, A. Then B is that some of these insights that we are talking about, they've never seen or they've never thought that it will come, because there are a lot of emergent properties, right, which they never thought they can get. So in terms of, for example, areas where they can optimize their cash flows, areas where they can find out some accounts or some areas within account payables or account receivables, some class. Basically it can, because AaDi can also do a lot of clustering analysis, right, which they were,
Mm.
because as a business you would not have thought of doing this, but with AaDi they just tried to experiment with it and it really worked, right, and gave some really cool insights. So I'll not take names, or but there are some really interesting stuff that is going on. I think we're really excited and investing heavily on AaDi, as more as because we are investing a lot of R&D budget on this, so that we can make it a better and better product every day by.
Fantastic. On that note, thank you so much, Dwarika, for making the time. It was a lot of fun to learn about Adi, and all the very best for you.
Thank you so much, Kashyap. It was lovely speaking with you.